subscribe to the channel and hit the like button for more engaging content. Um, as a fan of the original Star Trek series, I often find myself wondering if Nurse Christine Chapel will ever make an appearance in the Kelvin timeline. Having grown up watching her on my old black and white TV, her presence on the Starship Enterprise was as comforting as a warm cup of coffee on a chilly morning. The long-awaited release of Star Trek IV, which has been postponed for over 8 years, could potentially bring to life the character of Nurse Christine Chapel if it ever comes to fruition. J.J. Abrams revitalized Star Trek in 2009 by successfully reimagining the iconic characters from Star Trek, the original series, with fresh faces. Unfortunately, among these classic characters, one significant TOS figure who has yet to appear in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek is none other than Nurse Chapel. Initially portrayed by Majel Barrett Roddenberry, the character of Nurse Chapel served as the chief assistant to Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy on the USS Enterprise in Star Trek, the original series. You know, known for her unrequited love for Mr. Spock. Nurse Chapel has undergone a transformation in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, where she is played by Jess Bush. This new version of Christine offers a more dynamic and self-driven character, allowing her to pursue a greater purpose beyond a romantic connection with Lieutenant Spock. In J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies, you may not have seen or heard directly from Nurse Chapel, but let me assure you, Christine is very much a part of the Kelvin timeline. When Dr. McCoy smuggles James T. Kirk aboard the Starship Enterprise in Star Trek 2009, Bones calls for Nurse Chapel to administer treatment for Kirk's allergic reaction to the imedatory Melverin mud flea vaccine. Although several female nurses are present in the scene and none of them were explicitly identified as Nurse Chapel, it is essential to remember that Chapel was indeed on the board the Enterprise during Star Trek 2009. In Star Trek Into Darkness, Dr. Carol Marcus brings up Nurse Christine Chapel in a conversation with Captain Kirk during a shuttlecraft scene, hinting at their previous intimate relationship. However, an apparently preoccupied Kirk seemed unaware of whom she was referring to. A cutscene from Star Trek Into Darkness suggests that Dr. McCoy later reveals that Christine Chapel contracted a sexually transmitted disease from Kirk, which might explain why this particular moment was omitted from the final film. And as a dedicated Star Trek enthusiast, I'm excitedly speculating that Star Trek IV could offer a unique opportunity for Nurse Christine Chapel to rejoin the action in the Kelvin timeline. If the scriptwriters choose to bring her back aboard the USS Enterprise, she could serve as an intriguing counterpoint to the ever-expressive Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy. As someone eagerly anticipating Star Trek IV, I can imagine that since the story takes place after the J.J. Abrams produced movies like Star Trek and Star Trek Beyond, the characters from the USS Enterprise would be well into their 40s. Given that they all started at Starfleet Academy together around the same age, it's plausible that Dr. Christine Chapel might no longer be a nurse in Star Trek IV. Instead, she could bring fresh dynamics and perhaps even challenge Bones McCoy's position. And it would indeed be thrilling to witness the Kelvin timeline's Dr. Chapel in action in Star Trek IV. Even though the fast-paced Star Trek films featuring Chris Pine, lack nothing in terms of medical care without Nurse Chapel. Her absence is conspicuous and leaves a noticeable gap within sickbay on the USS Enterprise. While Dr. McCoy has admirably taken charge of every medical emergency aboard the ship without a primary nurse, it's evident that Nurse Chapel was sorely missed. The USS Enterprise feels incomplete without her presence, and her exclusion from Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond has been a letdown. However, Star Trek IV still offers an opportunity to correct this omissions, introducing Nurse Christine Chapel as a main character in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek series could help address the scarcity of strong female roles on the USS Enterprise. Lieutenant Uhura is the only significant female character currently, while Dr. Carol Marcus was absent from Star Trek Beyond, following a dispute over her portrayal in Star Trek Beyond Darkness. Jayla, introduced in Star Trek Beyond, offers hope for continued representation, and it's hoped she'll reappear in Star Trek IV, including Christine Chapel, a beloved character from Star Trek, the original series, would enhance the female presence on board the Enterprise for quite some time. Now, the production of Star Trek IV has been stuck in a creative limbo with directors like Matt Shackman as this likely waiting after a background time of Clarkson and Quentin Tarantino leaving the project due to artistic disagreements into slightly pointed. Contrary to earlier reports from 2024 stating that Steve Yockey, the flight attendant, was brought on board to write the concluding chapter for Chris Pine's USS Enterprise team, has been no recent word or updates about the progress of Star Trek IV. Instead, Paramount Pictures is focusing on a new untitled Star Trek origin film directed by Toby Haynes, which is currently being developed for potential filming in 2025 and release in 2026 to coincide with Star Trek's 60th anniversary. Nevertheless, members of the cast for Star Trek have expressed their desire to reprise their roles if Star Trek IV comes to fruition. It remains uncertain whether Nurse or Dr. Christine Chapel will be part of this potential sequel. If Star Trek IV is given the go-ahead, it would be intriguing to see who takes on the role of Chapel in this new installment. And the Just Bush has gained acclaim and popularity as Nurse Chapel in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but she portrays a younger version of Chapel. In the Kelvin timeline, Christine Chapel would likely be in her 40s, similar to Chris Pine's Captain Kirk and his co-stars. Here's hoping that Star Trek IV becomes a reality and Nurse Chapel is present on the Starship Enterprise as it embarks on another thrilling big screen journey. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,